Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the College of the Redwoods. Let's all stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered today is unceded territory of the Wiyot, Hoopa, Karuk, Matole, Tolowa, Wailaki, and Yurok. We honor them and all neighboring tribes by our ongoing commitment to developing trusting, reciprocal, and long-lasting partnerships. Moving on to agenda item 2.1, general public comments. There are none. There you are. Agenda item 2.2, member comments. We have members. So trustee Biggin and then trustee Pedrati.
Okay, since our last board meeting, the day after our board meetings, we always have the Chancellor's Office webinar, which I like to watch. So I watched that. And that was featuring this Student Senate CCC group. And they were talking about their advocacy day, March in March, and the students' involvement in advocacy, which was very interesting. Then there was a league forum on the 10th I listened to. On the 19th, I went to the Klamath Trinity Instructional Site semester celebration. And I was really pleased to see UPS represented there. They had a big table and all kinds of brochures about their program, and it was a great community turnout. I do appreciate the staff on the main campus when they come up to Hoopa, and Hoopa appreciates it too. Then on the 26th, I had two Zooms. One was the CR1 with the accessibility, capability, maturity model kickoff Zoom. That was quite interesting. Then at noon, the Chancellor's Office had Leading Educational Excellence series, and it was about DIA. And Dr. Buell was there, and the College of the Canyons were featuring all of their programs that promote diversity and inclusion. Then on the 28th, there was the art gallery dedication, which was really fantastic. And I really appreciate the work that Foundation did and Marty to put that together, and appreciate the trustees that came and spoke. And Shannon Sullivan was there and spoke. It was a very special event. And then finally on Friday, I went to the CR forum for breaking the cycle. I did 3 out of the 4 sessions.
Thank you. You had a busy month.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing I forgot, but it hasn't popped back into my head yet. So I guess I want to share that.
You know that you forgot it. Trustee Pedrati.
Okay, I attended the open forum with the ACCJC peer review team on March 5th after our regular monthly meeting. It was a very robust meeting with a variety of shares. I feel it gave the visiting team a very positive view of College of the Redwoods, and want to thank those who shared and were part of the meeting. March 14th, I went to the 2024 CR faculty and staff exhibition in downtown Eureka, the Redwood Art Association. And as usual, it did not disappoint. It reminds me I have such talented faculty and staff, and I missed. March 19th, listened to the recording of Leagues of Monthly Government Relation webinar. Looks like adjustments will be made in May. Every program should be ready for all different scenarios. March 28th, attended the opening of the art gallery dedicated to Floyd Batiga. And it was such a nice event, like Trustee Biggin mentioned. And I'll read a text that I received from one of Floyd's nephews, Greg Nordhughes. Said, hi, Lorraine, Floyd's dedication was very nice. CR did a great job with the building and recognition. Floyd would have been very pleased.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's
That
good.
was nice to hear.
Thank you for reading that.
Mhm.
Can I, excuse me, and I just.
Yeah.
Dovetail on Lorraine's comment. I too went to the art gallery, the Redwood Art Association Gallery in Eureka to see our faculty staff, which was really phenomenal. I took a couple of pictures and I posted them on my Facebook page, and I got quite a few comments, and it was pretty cool. You know, it just was neat to see the partnership, and I know that they've partnered with Humboldt State and hosted exhibits, and they were very excited about partnering with CR. It was an excellent.
Mhm. Very nice.
Thank you. And trustee Matthews?
Yes. So first of all, I did also attend the government relations webinar on the 19th, and what was covered there, you know, is what's been covered, and also what President Flamer covered in his written report for the meeting. And then on the 28th, I didn't attend the art gallery because I was attending the CR Del Norte Chamber Mixer and Open House here. And it was really nicely done, well organized. I got to meet a number of new faculty that I had met before, saw the new location for the office for the Pelican Bay Scholars Program. I was also in the biology lab. There was stuff with computers and the nursing lab going on also. So it was very nice. Because we're here, I wanted to take a moment, also because of our coming agenda, and ask President Flamer if I might share briefly about our outgoing dean of Del Norte and Pelican Bay, and about Tori Eagles. You know, we talk about growing your own, and this is a great story because you know, Rory started here, I think in 2009 as a counselor in the TRIO program, our Student Support Services program, which was really and still is a basic on our campus. He began, he was hired as director of the Del Norte campus in 2014. In about 2016, the Pelican Bay program was added to his responsibilities. And then his position was upgraded to Dean of Del Norte and the Pelican Bay Scholars Program. And we know that in June, he starts as Dean of the Career and Technical Education Program for the district as a whole. And will be returning to his hometown of Eureka. So I just want you to know how much, how, you know, he's come through CR and how much it has meant to the college, you know, to have him here. And I've already been told he will be missed when he goes south. Also, I want to mention Tori Eagles, whom I've worked with for a long time. I don't know the year, I think maybe around 2008. Tori began here as a student worker while she was attending CR. And from that, she moved to administrative office assistant, working in our front office. Worked with her then. And then she became our financial aid staff person on the campus at the time. Worked with her for a long time then in counseling and financial aid. Eventually, her position got split between financial aid and working half-time with the Pelican Bay program when it was just getting going. And then she became the full-time coordinator of that program in around 2018. And today we know that on the agenda, we have the pleasure of approving her in the new position of manager of the Pelican Bay Scholars Program, which was an open position. I heard she did a wonderful interview. And so I want you to know what she has meant to CR as well as CR has meant to her and to the program, which I think in many ways she's really, there's plenty of, you know, people involved in making that program a success, but Tori is definitely at the heart of that effort. While she has done that, she graduated from CR. Then she graduated from what was then Humboldt State with her bachelor's degree. And then she completed her master's degree from Humboldt State while she was working with this, and has had her family. So I just want you to know, there's lots of people to be recognized, but these two today are special to the college, and I wanted you to know that.
Thank you for that. Trustee Mullery.
Yes, and let me add my thank you, trustee Matthews. That was really very nice. Thank you. At the end of our last meeting, trustee Robertson and I sat in with ACCJC to review their team, and that was interesting. We enjoyed zooming in with them. March 19th, like a couple of my other trustee colleagues, I sat in on the government relations webinar where they gave the budget update, the legislative update, the federal update, the call to action update. A lot of updates, some of them better than others. And it's like we always live in this world of uncertainty, which is quite maddening, but you know, we're doing fine, more or less. Also on March 28th, I attended the art gallery in honor of Professor Patika. I certainly appreciated the remarks made by my colleagues, trustee Biggin and trustee Robertson. I will say I especially appreciated the remarks made by trustee Pedrati, who is related to the Patika family. And I found her remarks, which talked about the history of the family, their travels to Italy, and all that Professor Patika had done with his family in terms of nurturing them and exposing them to the arts and travel. I really found really interesting, and thank you for sharing that. That made him more than just a picture on a plaque for me. It turned him into a real person, so thank you. That's it.
That's good.
Trustee Dorn.
I also attended the open forum for ACJC, and it was just an incredible experience. And I know we're talking emotions today, but the people that responded, the staff, they were so encouraged, they just loved their job. They loved their programs, and they just really almost spilled their guts out on the forum. And it went from one department to another, and there were programs that I had never even dreamt existed on campus. And the dedication of all those people online was overwhelming. You know, it was just an amazing experience to sit there and to listen to that. Yeah,
Some of the students too.
the students, I mean, it wasn't what I thought we were gonna be doing.
Right.
You know, I thought it was gonna be more, you know, this standard or that standard, but it just went on to, I mean, I don't know how many people, employees and with staff, I mean, everybody, every walk of life on campus just talked. I mean, and they talked from their hearts, which was nice. They were just so real and emotional that it was a really special thing to do. I don't know if that was recorded or.
No,
No, yeah.
that never is.
Okay, yeah, it's a shame because it would have been a great thing to watch.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will add my comments then. So I too sat with the ACCJC in Zoom after our meeting on March 5th. That was wonderful, as trustee Mullery mentioned. It was nice to get to know the team a little bit and to get to know the Accreditation Oversight Committee from the CR campus. Trustee Mullery, President Flamer, and myself have been having lunch with with the constituent groups on campus. And so thus far, we've had a luncheon with CRFO and CSEA. Both of these luncheons were really fabulous. So the goal was for us to explore interaction and engagement between constituent groups and the Board of Trustees, and how to navigate that appropriately moving forward, how to strengthen those relationships. And through both of those luncheons, different ideas came up, and ideas that have a lot of, I think, promise. And so we'll be looking forward to kind of rolling out some of these ideas in terms of engagement. And we also look forward to continuing these luncheons with the Management Council as well as the Academic Senate in April. I attended the Floyd Batiga Gallery dedication, which was so fabulous. It was so well attended, and Trustee Pedrati, yes, your remarks were so heartfelt, and it's lovely when somebody comes alive through remarks. I could just imagine Floyd in Italy. I wanted to be there.
So,
Yeah. On, let's see, let me remind myself of the date. I don't have that written down. I thought I did. Myself, Trustee Pedrati, and Trustee Kelly met with Assembly Member Jim Wood. That was an excellent meeting. I'll actually discuss it further in our committee report, so I'll hold off on that. I listened to the government relations recording, and that's been covered already by fellow members, so I don't think I need to add anything there. I've also been listening to a podcast that is put out by Inside Higher Education. It's called The Key. They're doing a series on student success that I would highly recommend. It's a very good listen. They're short episodes, they're like 25 minutes. A recent episode focused on adult and non-traditional students. So those are students that are very important to CR. Another episode focused on serving rural communities. And it was an episode that was dedicated to the work that a community college district in Montana is doing to ensure that every single high school student in their catchment area graduates with at least 1 unit of college credit. And so they're all taking a course, the same course across all of these high schools, and it is a college readiness and career preparation course. So it's a great listen. Again, I would recommend it. The Key. And that's all I have to add this month. Moving on to board committee reports. Trustee Dorn.
I can go first. I'm chair of the Presidential Evaluation Committee with Trustee Mullery and Trustee Bingham. We met with President Flamer and went over the instrument that we were thinking about designing. Julie typed it up, and then the committee approved it, and we sent it to President Flamer for his ultimate review and comments on it. And so that survey is going out tomorrow morning and is due back on the 5th. What time? When's yours going out? Yours is going out.
we're going out the 17th.
It's due back the 16th.
Yeah.
So it's back there. And it's a different survey than we had done in the past. And I believe President Flamer,
Yes, it was fine. I just had one slight revision of some language and that was it.
right, and will that survey be used in other cases or just?
How many cases will this?
No,
be
no.
by this course?
Okay. That's it.
Great, thank you. Trustee Pedrati and then Trustee Matthews.
The Board Evaluation Committee, which consists of President Robertson, Trustee Fagan, and myself, met after the last board meeting on March 5th. We agreed on an evaluation survey and continued to fine tune it thereafter. The evaluation survey will be emailed to the board on April 17th and close on May 1st.
Thank you. And Trustee Matthews.
Okay, the ad hoc advisory committee on the bond, which is trustee Dorn, trustee Biggin and myself, met on March 18th and reviewed the PowerPoint presentation that was developed for, meeting with, supporters and, key people and then members of the public and what, groups can be, get together to hear about the proposed bond. And then, the ad hoc committee for policy review, which is trustee Kelly, trustee Mullery, and myself, have been working on reviewing the 42 policies and 20 APs under the district, under the board's purview. And we have completed editing the first set and are going to be working on the next set, and they need to be done by fall. What we're doing is being sure that they are current, that they are updated in terms of the league templates, in terms of position titles, responsibilities that are referred to, particular facts. So that's what we're working on.
Thank
Do
you.
I follow up on that?
Sure.
So regarding the bond committee meeting, I gotta say that was the best committee meeting I've had in years. The three of us just hit it off, and it was like, it was just brainstorming and redoing the slides, and it was really, when I got off the phone, I was sort of sad it was over. Because it was just it was so enlightening and so productive, and nobody had an agenda. It was like, let's talk about this and let's do this. It was,
An hour and a half.
yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, they kept my attention. We all know how hard that is, but it was just an incredible meeting, and I wanted to thank both of you.
Well,
So,
and we survived the meeting in spite of
Right,
my technical difficulties. But yes, it was a good meeting,
yeah,
a good discussion.
Thank you. And I will add the ad hoc committee on advocacy report. And so that committee consists of trustee Pedrati, trustee Kelly, and myself. We met on March 8th to plan our meeting with Assembly Member Jim Woods, which I already mentioned. We then met with Assembly Member Wood on the 11th, on Monday. We shared with him celebrations as well as challenges that CR is facing. And so we shared with him our enrollment growth, some of the new programs that CR has rolled out recently, specifically those that were funded by Strong Workforce funds, and the work on workforce development that is going on through College of the Redwoods. We also shared, like I said, some challenges or needs that the college has specifically within the context of the current budget cycle. And so we advocated for the maintenance of the workforce development funding to continue the work that we mentioned in our celebrations, and also funding COLA for this upcoming cycle. It was a great meeting. Okay, moving on to, if no other committee reports, right? Okay, moving on to 2.4, status of Board of Trustees requests. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I would like to bring something up. Oh, you go ahead.
No, perfect. I think we're on the same page, so go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to bring up the recent request made by trustee Kelly that we receive advocacy training as a group. In thinking about this and doing some investigation, to my mind, we have lots of opportunities for advocacy training through the league, through the CCCT. And those are opportunities that are supported in many ways. And what my thought is that potentially, if we do decide to move forward with the bond measure, that we have some training through a workshop by the consultants in terms of how to advocate specific to the bond measure. And so I would like to suggest that we remove this request at this time from.
And then work towards training regarding the bond.
If we decide to
To
move
go-
forward
move
with the
forward.
bond measure. So any thoughts?
That was the purpose of my request.
Great.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have it focused on something we're trying to do.
Okay. Sounds like we're all in agreement, then we will remove that from our requests at this point and move forward if we do decide to go with the bond measure.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, and then you wanted to bring something up?
You already said it.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna ask the board to do that.
Oh, okay. Moving on to agenda item 2.5. This is a discussion item. The annual review of the mission statement. And so I'm gonna open it up to questions or comments, thoughts on this year mission statement. Trustee Muller.
Yeah, I'll just simply say that I always appreciate seeing this on our agenda. Not so much that we should begin revising it as a committee, because you don't want to, in my opinion, start with wordsmithing a mission statement among the trustees that belongs to the district. But I think it's an important reminder for all of us that this is our mission statement, and to read it and to be mindful of it as we move forward. So I appreciate having it on the agenda.
I agree, and in reviewing it, some things I noted were that the mission statement and the points in the mission statement really closely align with our goals as a board, and so I appreciated that, and the reminder that we are aligning our goals with the mission statement, and also the good work that is happening at the college, I think is very much a reflection of and aligned with the mission statement. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, consent calendar action items. Would anybody like to pull an item from the consent calendar? All right,
I move approval.
I second it.
all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no.
Did we get Sybil's vote? Okay, thank you.
All right, the consent calendar is approved. Moving on to action and discussion items. Agenda item 4.1, ratify College of the Redwoods Foundation bylaws.
Move to approve.
Well, second.
Right, so we have it on the table. Do we have any discussion or questions about the bylaws?
I have a question. Has this been, is this the one that was existed before, or has this been added to since the last set of bylaws were ratified?
That's a great question.
I can answer it, but we also have trustees that are represented on the foundation.
Yeah, thank you. This is simply a revision of the bylaws that have been in place. And I will say that at the last foundation meeting, they were discussed and moved forward by the foundation.
So my question was,
Is that right, President?
You are
Yeah.
correct, yes, ma'am.
would you mind just pointing out what revisions, because it wasn't clear?
I thought it was.
Maybe it wasn't clear to me.
There was a revision associated with meetings,
Yes.
and
It wasn't redlined.
there was just sort of a mark on the side.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
And there was discussion regarding expectations of board members regarding their support, their financial support of the board.
Okay.
And after considerable discussion, there wasn't a specific addition made that a particular amount would be expected by board members, but that board members would be, in terms of financial support, but that board members were certainly expected to support the foundation in the means which were appropriate to their personal standing in the community or their own personal finances.
Okay.
So that was probably, I'm looking for it in here now. That generated the most discussion, whether or not there should be some more than an expectation in the bylaws, you shall contribute this or that. And it wasn't as if the foundation members said, no, we shouldn't contribute, but it should be based on the means of an individual foundation.
And not spelled out.
President Blamer, did I?
You have it correct, yes, ma'am.
There it is, it's 102.10.
102.
It says, make an annual gift to the foundation according to personal needs.
Versus a set amount of money.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Question, there is an article, 5.3 that, says all meetings, have to be held with a quorum of the board there. But in 4.1, it just says, any officer may be removed by a majority of directors present at the meeting. Which I assume still means you have to have a quorum, but it didn't actually say that.
But it's showing this one. Yeah, no, I did not pick that up. I think there's an assumption that there wouldn't be a meeting if there wouldn't be a quorum.
Right, I realize the article is in there, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
And so you can't have a meeting without a quorum.
right.
Right.
That's,
So there wouldn't be, I suppose they could sit around and chat, but
Right.
there wouldn't,
Can't
they
take
couldn't
they
action.
couldn't
take
take any action.
anyways, right?
okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, then let's vote on that. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? The bylaws are approved, accepted, approved, ratified.
Ratified.
That's the word. Moving on to 4.2, the first read of administrative procedures. So we have AP 4106 and AP 6750.
Move to approve.
This is
Why not?
first read.
Right. Discussion. Move to discuss.
Do we have any questions or points of discussion on this? Okay, moving on. Agenda item 4.3, military equipment use, internal departmental policy. This is an information item. Would you like to?
Certainly. So there is a list of military equipment that each police force in the country are allowed to procure. And we just simply want just a few items that have to do with trying to augment our police force. So this is just an informational item for the board for today. And we'll come back in May for a resolution for the board to approve, and I'll have the specific, in the resolution, we'll have the specific items that we would like to procure.
Yes, trustee Mullen.
I'm wondering, President Flamer, if you might want to add that this is being driven by a bill.
It is, so it's state law.
It's,
Yeah.
so it's not something we're just deciding it's a good idea to do.
Okay, moving on to 4.4. Resolution 806, recognizing April as Campus Pride Month.
Move approval.
Second.
Great. Do you have any questions or any points of discussion?
May I please ask you to read the resolution? for the
Yes.
record?
Do I do that after or?
I would do it prior to the final vote, if you don't.
Okay. So do we have any? I'm enthusiastic about supporting this. I'm very pleased that there will be a Pride Month during the academic year. So I will read the resolution. I have it. Redwoods Community College District Board of Trustees, Resolution 806, recognizing April as Campus Pride Month. Whereas Redwoods Community College District recognizes our community's diversity as one of our greatest strengths and promotes inclusion as a key priority by celebrating diversity in people, philosophies, cultures, beliefs, and backgrounds. And whereas in 2016, the American College Health Association found that out of a sample of more than 33,000 undergraduate students, 10% identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, or questioning. And whereas Redwoods Community College District recognizes that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus, or LGBTQ plus, people come from all walks of life, including race, ethnicity, religion, ancestry, national origin, economic status, physical or mental ability, medical condition, sex or gender identity or expression. And whereas Redwoods Community College District is committed to providing equitable student learning and achievement, academic excellence, and workforce development by delivering high-quality educational programs and support services to our diverse communities. And whereas Humboldt County Transition Age Youth Collaboration and its Youth Advisory Board reported in 2021 that 36% of youth shared they experienced discrimination, harassment, or bias. 74% of youth did not know of any programs in Humboldt County that are specifically for LGBTQ plus youth. And 33% of youth said they did not feel as comfortable with programs that did not focus specifically on supporting LGBTQ plus youth. Redwoods Community College District recognizes that school support for LGBTQ plus students result in higher success rates and less mental health symptoms. And whereas a growing body of research indicates that LGBTQ plus people of color are adversely affected by cumulative discrimination and social exclusion, including racism from the LGBTQ plus community and homophobia and heterosexism within their racial and ethnic community. And whereas the struggle for dignity and equality for LGBTQ plus people is mirrored in the determined dedication of advocates and allies who strive to create a more inclusive society and kinder community. And whereas explicit state and federal statutory protections currently address discrimination based on race, color, national origin, sex, disability, but not sexual orientation or gender identity. There is no federal law that bans discrimination against sexual orientation and gender identity in public spaces. And whereas President Bill Clinton on June 2nd, 2000 declared June Gay and Lesbian Pride Month to commemorate the June 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Lower Manhattan. And on June 1st, 2009, President Barack Obama expanded the commemoration by declaring June to be Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. And whereas it has been more than 50 years since the Stonewall Uprising broke out, following a police raid on the Stonewall Inn, targeting LGBTQ plus patrons and other marginalized people in violation of their civil rights, leading to the birth of the gay rights movement. And whereas LGBTQ plus Americans, including those who live in our local communities, continue to face marginalization, discrimination, and hatred, simply for being who they are and for whom they love. And whereas the landmark Supreme Court decision of 2015, guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states, was a historic victory for LGBTQ plus Americans, and continues to affirm the belief that we are all freer when we are treated as equals. And whereas the rainbow flag, also known as the LGBTQ plus pride flag, serves as a symbol of hope and inclusion to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people and LGBTQ plus social movement. And whereas June is Pride Month, but colleges and universities celebrate Campus Pride Month in April, since their students leave campus during the summer months. Across the United States, LGBTQ plus college students and allies are planning events and showing their support for the LGBTQ plus community on their campuses during the month of April. And whereas Redwoods Community College District commits to flying the rainbow flag throughout the month of April as it further symbolizes the celebration and affirmation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And whereas the departments and centers of Redwoods Community College District are encouraged to support our LGBTQ+ students, staff, and community by flying the rainbow flag. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Redwoods Community College District declare April as Campus Pride Month and encourage students, faculty, and staff to raise awareness and to celebrate the contributions of the LGBTQ+ community. And be it further resolved that the Redwoods Community College District does hereby proclaim April as Campus Pride Month. And be it further resolved that this resolution be distributed to every college and center in the Redwoods Community College District.
It's very long. Great
Good
job.
job.
It's emotional too.
It is extremely emotional.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
It is so resolved.
Thank you so much.
I would just like to say that it's an excellent thing for us to be part of a college and to state that are supporting all of the, economically as well as in terms of programs and services. These values when there are states which are saying we cannot do it.
I would also like to add that I'm so glad that this resolution mentions the intersectionality of identities that are so important.
I wanted to add that the league has a 2-day, well, actually 2 morning Zoom presentation that is sponsored by the LGBTQ+ caucus, which I signed up for. I don't know if anybody else saw the flyer on it, but I know the league is really making an effort to raise awareness too throughout all the districts and trustees.
Do you know the date
Yes, the 17th and the 18th,
of April?
Of April, it's like a Wednesday and Thursday morning.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to informational reports. 5.1, we have a discussion of IPEDS data, the feedback report.
And Amy's on
And Amy's on Zoom. And we're-
I'm here. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Thank you. I just wanted to give you a short introduction about what IPEDS is and then answer any questions if there were any questions about the report. So in my world, IPEDS is our most important compliance. I mean, there are other reports, but this one is mandated by the federal government. And it has a hefty fee if we don't get a deadline, if we don't make the deadline. So we're in the midst of it. We're submitting 4 surveys for a deadline that's tomorrow. So IPEDS stands for Integrated Post-Secondary Education System, Data System, sorry. And like I said, it's required for anyone who wants federal financial assistance programs. And it's required, by Title IV of the Higher Education Act of 1965. So we submit 3 times a year, various surveys. The data is not confidential, meaning what we submit is then used in reports on websites and for anyone who wants the information. Each year we receive this report, which is a comparison report showing how we are doing compared to other colleges that we have chosen. But we can do comparisons at any time. But we just thought this would be kind of a nice bundled report for you. Also, in the report, I just want to also point out that it shows the median, not the average. So we had chosen 12 I call them like sister colleges, but colleges that are similar to us. And then what we're being compared to is the median of those 12 colleges.
Hmm.
There are 28 figures. I'm not gonna go through every single one. But I'm here to answer if there was any questions about that. If anyone had a specific figure you wanted to talk about, I could share my screen. But that's kind of what I was here for, I guess.
Thank you. Do any of my fellow trustees have questions or figures they would like explained? Trustee Bingham.
Were there any areas that were of concern to her?
Did you hear that, Amy?
Yeah, we don't look very good when it comes to certain metrics, compared to these groups. I don't have anything that stands out particularly to discuss. I also, when I look at these, I like looking at ones that have percentages, not actual numbers, because a lot of these colleges are larger than us. So we're gonna look small, like our total enrollment looks small, or, let's just see, or our award levels look small because they're the actual numbers. I like looking more at like, the ones that have percentages that can really just kind of compare. So like our type of aid, any grant aid, we're doing better than the median of these 12 colleges because that's a percentage. So you just kind of just make sure you know that on average, and I'm saying that word, but on average, these colleges are bigger than us, have more expenses than us, that kind of thing.
Amy, this is Keith. Could you talk us through figure 16?
Sure. I'm gonna share my screen too, just so those.
We don't have access.
Sally does.
I pulled up my Zoom without the audio, so
Oh.
that I
But
could
we
see.
do have each have screens in front of us with the report up.
Okay, great. I just also, if you do have Zoom, it was just better colors.
Well, we don't have any colors.
Okay, no worries. So this is graduation rates of students who are considered full-time, first-time degree certificate seeking undergrads within 150% of normal time to program completion. This is race and ethnicity. So it's showing like, let's just look at American Indian and Alaskan Native. Okay, we're showing at 13%. The median of the other institutions is showing at 15%. That is saying that of those students who identify in this ethnicity, we have less percentage of them graduating. Are there any other questions, Keith?
Yes, I have another question on figure 23.
Okay,
Could I ask really quick, what is considered 150% of normal or average?
that is a good question. I don't know that I know that off the top of my head, but I think
3 years.
it
Okay,
would be 3 years, yes.
thank
But
you.
some of these figures go up to 8 years. So it
Mhm.
just depends on the figure and what metric they're using. All right, I'm going down to 23.
Amy, it's a question I have on expense function.
Okay, I'm looking at expenses. Distribution of core revenues and kind of where, how our percentages are doing comparatively. So it's saying that our revenue source is like our tuition and fees, which we don't have tuition, is 2% versus the median of the other colleges is 3%. But we have a larger state appropriations at 30% compared to 22%. We have less local appropriations at 13% compared to 23%. We're kind of very comparable with government grants and contracts. And then other core revenues, we have more. I'd have to dig in to know what those other core revenues are. But we can always ask Julie Morrison as well.
At some point, I just may. Okay, thank you. So Amy, on the expense function, on its face, it looks like we spend more per student FTE than our sister institution. Is that
Yeah, and on instruction.
correct? But also on academic support.
Oh, sorry, you were talking about figure 24 and I went to figure 23. Okay,
23.
yep. Yes, that's what it does look like.
And so that's interesting in terms of graduation rates are not as high and
Expensive.
expenses are higher. So what's that?
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there.
Again, you could also have scale, if they're larger. I'm just kind of hammering on, it'd be nice to know like how much bigger these colleges are too.
Right. And those expenses though are per FTE.
Yes,
They are, but I was still thinking that economies of scale has to play a role in, because you have to provide a certain amount regardless, excuse me, of how many students you have. So fewer students, it's going to cost you more.
It is,
Per.
right?
May I make one when that's done?
Trustee Kelly.
Well, so my questions were, is there a way to, generate a report like this, like we had on the portal, on the, institutional effectiveness portal before, where it's less about a point in time calculation? I know that those point in time calculations, especially around like homeless populations and stuff, can really skew data just because there's so many differences and variations between times a year. And I would imagine for us in particular, it would really impact us. Fall versus spring versus, different times a year because students are going in and out all through the year. The second question I have is around which student populations are included in this. So are there any student populations that aren't included in this report? For instance, Pelican Bay or our adult education, community education program. Also, I'm wondering about our dual enrollment students and how they get captured or not captured in here.
Good question.
Did you hear that, Amy?
yes, so so when we report to iPads, we report all students in the entire district. They do have ways for us to separate out dual enrollment, but I'm not sure who is actually captured in here. I am assuming this report is probably credit only students, but I could be wrong on that. But although we know to sometimes disaggregate by, different locations or by Pelican Bay, that for iPads, they do not disaggregate. It's everyone. As far as the point in time, because we have academic semesters, iPads takes fall enrollment and it's the same comparison for any other college that has an academic year. If they are kind of continuous enrollment, then they take 12 months of enrollment. So this is our fall students.
Yes, trustee Kelly.
So if this report is maybe based on credit-only students, maybe our expenses are based on that too, or not? Perhaps some of the categories in this report are for all student populations and then being intermixed or not? Like the expense function part, would that have been just the expenses for instruction of credit-only students or all students across the district?
That is a good question. I can find out for you. I think that, let me just look at that one again.
It
So-
says, finance data includes all core expenses while FTE reflects credit activity. So it's all
Just credit.
core expenses.
Yep, so that is
Huge
correct.
disconnect.
It is.
But it's also per FTE, so your non-credit
It's not, it's not
is not
showing.
included in
Yeah.
that,
Correct.
in your FTE. So it wouldn't include non-credit.
And then also in methodological notes, it's further description.
I have one more question for Amy when you're ready to move on.
I think you can, yeah.
Amy, on figure 25. And we talk about this, it seems like we talk about this every year. There's some concern that I have on how we define who's in management and who's not. It looks like we are higher than our peers. Is there a common definition of how we define who's in the MC group and in terms of iPads than our sister schools are?
Yeah, there is a common definition. And in fact, I'm gonna be meeting with Aaliyah Dunphy later because we're gonna be submitting the human resources portion of iPads today. So yes, it will be have a same definition.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Matt.
Well, I had the same thought about this one that I had about a couple of the others, that when you have mandated programs, when you have programs that you are working to develop for your college's development, and are investing staff time in all of that, again, this is a question of economies of scale, at least in part, because you have to do that work, have that responsibility, reporting, administrating, et cetera, if you've got 2 students or 10 students.
Right,
And so I think that part of that is influenced by, you have to have vice presidents, no matter how many students you have to get the work done, you have to meet all the requirements. And
True, but this
that
is
plays a role.
straight numbers.
It just
Yeah.
plays a role.
Percentage. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you. Amy? Oh, yes.
Well,
Carolyn.
it's not a question. I just, one of the things that really struck me I really liked Amy's comment about it was figure 8 about the financial aid awards, because her comment was how well we're doing, because 93% of these students, as defined, are receiving this financial aid. And my response when I read it was, my gosh, look at what this means for the college, that not economically, but that 93% of our students qualify for this aid. What does that say about the community of students that we serve?
Yeah, and their economic resources.
Right, so it's both. It's also a recognition that, yes, we're doing well at getting those students qualified, applied, supported, so that they receive the aid that they can receive.
But that they're in a position that they need it.
Yes,
Yes, and then figure 9 actually has the number, the average amount awarded, and we're higher. So our
Mhm.
students, not only do we have more students getting financial aid, they're getting more money. So
Thank you.
Just
Oh,
to
sorry.
wrap up too, also, if, say, like the Institutional Effectiveness Committee decides, or you all decide that you would like to see how we benchmark against a particular college, I can do that in the future.
Oh, that is great to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Moving on to 5.2 recognitions.
I always enjoy doing this section of the board report. And this is just a touch about some of the great things that our staff and faculty are doing. And I really, really enjoyed letting the board and the public know how great my colleagues actually are.
This was a great, well, it's always a great month for recognitions. I really enjoyed reading about these 3 faculty members are local and are doing wonderful things at CR, inspiring students. And of course, the recognition of the student athletes as well. It's always heartwarming and seeing what students are going on to do. 5.3, presentation of Redwoods Community College District initial bargaining proposals to California School Employees Association, College of the Redwoods, Chapter 509.
This is just an informational item, just to let the board know of how we're going to negotiate and what we're going to negotiate with CSEA moving forward.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to organizational reports. Agenda item 6.1, Academic Senate, President Deanna Herrera. She's on, great.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm on Zoom here. So this month, rather than writing up a report, I just submitted, as you can see, the table, or if you've already seen it, if you can't see it right now, of all the Senate goals that we had set for this year and how we've gone about engaging those goals with activities. And so these goals all aligned with the EMP. So the overall context is really to focus on how the Senate can, cohesively engage in activities that are interwoven with the EMP and actualize those in activities that will directly, and of course, it's always our hope, will impact our students in a really positive way. So there's so many different threads that you can see in the table of all the different activities that the Senate's been engaged in different areas. And so it's also very important for me to look at, well, how is our Senate reflecting what's happening on the scale of the state? And how are we mirroring some of those activities and supporting those activities that have been goals set forward by the state, as well as not just the ASCCC, but the Chancellor's Office as well. So one thing that I did want to highlight here is that, we have all of our separate committees. And so the committee chairs all submitted their activities to this table. And there are also other things that we engage in through Senate leadership on our various committees that the Vice President and I sit on. So those were included as well. So one thing that for me, just in my role this year as the Senate President, which will be coming to an end soon, was that I've noticed after being at College of the Redwoods District for over 20 years that there have just been some amazing, wonderful programs that have been engaged. And sometimes they disappear and we're not really sure why. And I'm talking specifically right now within the Senate. And so if we're not following and tracking what we're doing, it's really hard to go back and figure out, okay, well, what was missing? What we have done a little bit better? And how do these things also support other areas of the district? And so when those things are gone, then what is put in their place? And so I've just been really working on this year to make sure that we have some record and a lot of ways that we could go back to our activities to figure out, well, what is working, what's not working so well, and how can we make some changes in the future. So that's the context for the table. Also, I did want to say that on Friday, I attended the Breaking the Cycle for formerly incarcerated students activity that took place. And it was just so wonderful to see a board member there and what that means for the students to see that support. And, you know, it was just such a wonderful event. And just speaking from someone, I taught at Pelican Bay during, not at the campus there, but through correspondence during the pandemic. And just to see the huge impact that what we do there can have on these individuals who have so much to give, you know, to our communities and to get that support. And then to see also some students who've been incarcerated, but not necessarily at Pelican Bay on Friday's event was also really informative. So I just really wanted to give a shout out for that event. And I hope that we have more of those in the future as well. So I just wanted to see if you had any questions about some of the things we've been working on at Senate or any comments.
Trustee Dorn.
I did have a question on goal number 2, number 3. Could you expand on that and just what the thought process was?
In the activities or just the goals themselves?
Regarding the land acknowledgement, usage and work with faculty.
Mhm.
Are they going to be examining that we open our board meeting with, or so if you could just explain that, I'd like to understand it better.
Oh, sure. So the land acknowledgement was really something that was coming out of the Multicultural and Diversity Committee. And they engaged in all kinds of research looking at different land acknowledgements, as well as checking in with our local tribal communities and seeing how to construct one that is, you know, that makes sense for our particular community that includes so many different tribes within it. And so they were looking at that and could actually bring that to the board. However, they, as far as I know, they did make recommendations for the land acknowledgement that exists now for the district.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Does it say?
I want to thank you for sharing this table with us. It's really, it gave me a lot of insight into the goals that define the work of the Senate and the actual activity that you're doing in committee. I don't know that we would have this comprehensive of a picture otherwise. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And my hope too is that this is something we could do annually and then submit it to the Integrated Planning Committee and perhaps encourage other committees to do the same so that a more comprehensive matrix of what all the committees are doing could be included in an annual report. So that's my ultimate end goal with this, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I would imagine that this is very helpful in the Senate as a document that lives on once you leave your office.
Yes, exactly. And I also, you know, I just took so much to heart the words in the resolution for April being recognized as Pride Month, you know, and really, I just was very emotional when I was listening to that because it really speaks to how far the district has come in these ideas of inclusivity and diversity and what it really means for our students and how we can really on the ground support them in every way. And I know that MEC does so much of this, but it's really a shared responsibility across all of our areas at the district. And just hearing the resolution and the words in them, all of the whereases really speak to the commitment that the district has now across the board to all of our communities that we serve. And it just means the world, I think, to our students, and just Trustee Mallory's words that, you know, when she's talking about the mission and working on the mission, how it's so important to go back to, well, what are our values? And yes, these should be driven by our hearts, you know, and I just love that. So thank you so much. And it's just a wonderful thing that you passed this resolution.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.2, CRFO President Michelle Haggerty.
She's not on Zoom.
Okay. Moving on to 6.3, Classified President Tammy Engman.
Also not on Zoom.
Okay, moving on to 6.4, Management Council President Erica Barber.
She is not on Zoom either, but Lee Dooley is for Management Council. If anyone has questions.
Do you have any questions for Lee? Okay, moving on.
I don't have a question, but I just think it's great that, you know, that they're planning to do the barbecue to recognize the classified management and, you know, to honor them. Appreciate learning about that.
I agree. Agenda item 6.5, Student Trustee Sybil Godfrey.
I apologize for not having a written report. We had our last AACR meeting on March 5th, a couple days after the last board meeting. There we rechartered the Asian and Pacific Islander Club. We're having more discussion on a possible mural project, maybe in the library on one of those walls. But so we're still working through that. We funded a mental health awareness event at the KT campus, and we funded custom stoles for the social work and human services department. We did that last year, so they were very happy that we funded them again this year. And then we funded for the Women in Welding event that we funded last year as well. This Thursday, 10 of our members, along with 2 chaperones, are going to the SSCCC General Assembly. So we're excited for that. And yeah. And we have our next meeting tonight at 7:30.
Busy day. Thank you. Wonderful work.
Comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I appreciated when I was at Breaking the Cycle panel presentation, one of the formerly incarcerated students is actually a senator with ASCR. That was really impressive, and he was very articulate, and I thought it's great that his voice is at the table. Just wanted to mention that, 'cause I don't know if other trustees. I know now they call them justice involved more than they call them formerly incarcerated. So I'm trying to practice using that term, justice involved student. So anyway, a senator.
Moving on to administrative reports, agenda item 7.1, President Superintendent's report.
Thank you. In terms of one of the things in the written report, and we've talked about this at every board meeting of how precarious the state budget is, and I think that we're doing well to try to position the college on any eventuality that comes in May or June or July. Right, so I think that we're doing okay for the next couple of years, so I think that we should feel comfortable with that. But also, I want to comment that what Trustee Dorn was trying to lead me to comment about the survey instrument for the president's evaluation is that there are certain pieces of evaluation instrument that I'm going to take out and put on the vice president's evaluation instrument as well, so we can see that the alignment of what the board expects of me or my position, but also within what I expect for the vice presidents moving downward. So we can show a direct alignment between all the administrators and what the board should expect from us. And that is my only comments for today.
Do you have any questions? Trustee Matt.
One of the things that I think I asked President Thamer about this at one point, but one of the things in the government relations thing and in the list that you had mentioned is this proposal of capping the reserves.
Yes.
And I don't know what the feeling is, that that's likely to pass or not pass. I'm trying to understand what's behind that. If it's just, we're short of money, so you gotta spend more of it, or is there something else behind that?
Yeah, I had that question as well.
Because we've worked, it's not that we've worked hard, other colleges have bigger reserves too, it's just, it has been important to us to try to meet that goal and to have the reserves that had been suggested by the chancellor's office, and you've got the chancellor's office and some political bodies at odds with each other over it, and, it just seems to me, especially in a time that is unsure economically, is not when you want to cut your reserve down.
Do we know if the league supports or opposes that particular legislation?
I don't.
I don't know yet.
It could be something that the league doesn't support and will be advocating for districts to be able to have the reserves that they feel is appropriate.
I would have said 2 years ago that this bill didn't have any legs to pass. I think with the state budget as it is, I think there is some assumptions that it will pass. Because there are so many of our sister schools that have reserves at 25, almost 60%, and that they've accumulated and not given out. Right, and so with more colleges saying, state, give us more money, but they're sitting on high reserves. We are not, and other schools are not, but some are significantly higher. And so the state's wondering, well, why should we fund a college that's flush or and not fund others? I can't say that there are advocates on the union side are not advocating for this. And I don't know that for a fact, but it makes sense. There's even when the chancellor's office did advocate for having each district to have a higher reserve, there's always been some concern that it's too high. Right, so maybe 15–16% was about what most people said that's healthy. So it's getting down to so I don't know if the bill will pass, but there is some advocacy behind it.
I appreciate that broader perspective.
Right.
Trustee Kelly.
I will say too, and maybe Trustee Biggin can speak to this as well, but serving on the CCCT board, the focus of the league is often trying to maintain local control where it makes sense and is appropriate. And in particular, we just finished looking at our iPads where our budget numbers are different than other districts' spending per FTE, for example. And I think every district is unique. And I don't know specific, I tried to look it up quickly, the league's position on it, the Senate bill in particular, but I couldn't find it in a short amount of time. But I want to say that as an advocacy group, we should look at it maybe and discuss, but also from the perspective of local control, I think it's very important that we work with all our constituency groups. I want to commend President Flamer and how you've handled these conversation topics before by bringing in all the constituency groups and trying to come to a reasonable place of understanding as we try to shore up our budgets. It's really interesting, this argument, because I think that stability is an important thing for workforce. Stability is an important thing for student success programs. And without at least 3 months, I don't know how we keep it, but I think the league wants us to have local control as much as possible.
So,
Trustee Doran.
but following up on President Flamer, if you look at some of these large colleges that would have a 20% or 25% reserve, I mean, that's millions. And if you look at what 72 colleges, I mean, if 20 of those colleges have $20 million in reserve, I mean, I think you're right on what you're saying. I mean, that makes sense. They're going to go after those reserves that aren't really necessary.
And did you set up to 60%?
There, I know one of my colleagues that has a reserve of 65%.
Wow.
But some of those, it's not necessarily the percentage, it's the amount of money.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're all hung up on the percentage, but, you know, 60% of our budget would be nothing compared to 20% of LA Community College. You know, so,
But the
Yeah,
expenses
but
are
in terms of
different
the
too.
operating cost.
right, but I mean, I'm just saying that the overall reserves. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to 7.2, Vice President of Instruction, Dr. Getchy.
Yes, good morning, trustees. I'm back here at the Eureka campus. And just wanted to share a couple of things beyond my report. First of all, several of you have mentioned breaking the cycle last Friday. So I wrote that in my report before the event had actually occurred, of course, and now having attended, wow, what a impactful event. Thank you, Trustee Biggin, for attending. Thank you, Trustee Kelly. I know you were both there. And we're still looking at kind of numbers, you know, since the campus was closed yesterday, we didn't get the opportunity to really recap the total number of participants, but estimating right around 80 folks that were involved either as volunteers or, you know, putting on the simulation itself took quite a few bodies, quite a few people that took time out to be there, and attendance from all of our different constituent groups, faculty, staff, managers were there. It was really quite an impressive event. It was the original brainchild of Carolyn Perkins and Matt McKinley, and brought together with the planning committee that just really put a lot of work and energy into this, and it showed. It really was an impactful event. The other thing I'd just like to mention is Thursday, the day before that, Del Norte had their open house. And also shout out to the folks that were involved in planning. And it was really everybody that works at the Del Norte instructional site. It was kind of an all hands on deck, faculty, staff, and managers that really put together a very nice event. I know, yeah, Trustee Matthews, of course, was there, and I got the chance to attend, and it really just highlighted again the really fantastic work that's being done at in Del Norte County for those students there. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? I have a quick question. Will the Breaking the Silence event be an annual event? Regular?
Probably not annual, only because of the manpower that it took to put it together is my guess, but certainly something that we want to revisit. We were able to take advantage of a Fifth Friday, of course, to do it. And so we really try and grab those Fifth Fridays for different kinds of professional development. So sometimes it's also when that falls and how it falls in our semester. But I know it's something that people would be interested in participating in again, but I know it probably exhausted our manpower a bit for the moment.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yes, Trustee Biggin.
She talked about Matt McKinley's involvement. Matt McKinley is a student advisor from Hoopa.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to visit with him Friday, and he said that he was aware of a program like that at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I believe. And he suggested that to some staff, and they got excited about it, and they took the ball and kind of ran with it. And he now comes down to the main campus at least one day a week to help support Hoopa students that are enrolled on the main campus, in addition to the work that he does on the instructional side of Hoopa. And I thought, you know, it's an evolution of that role of student advisor that's quite interesting, and I just wanted to share that with the rest of the board to know that we have that outreach on the main campus for our students.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Kelly.
SB 1388 is opposed by the Triple CT.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 7.3, Vice President of Administrative Services, Ms. Julia Morrison.
Yes, thank you. I would like to add, as far as our fiscal year end transition plan goes, Mitchell Lucky, our district accounting analyst, has launched a tool brand new for this upcoming budget cycle for 24-25 that helps our cost center managers be more informed and proactive when formulating their budgets for the coming year. So hopefully also smoothline the back end for him when he has to load those budgets. So I was really happy that he, number one, came up with the idea and has launched it. I would also like to add that I also was able to participate in the Breaking the Cycle event. It was emotionally charged, it was eye-opening, and it reaffirmed for me the important role that education plays for our society, but especially the justice involved individuals. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to 7.4, Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Crystal Morris.
Thank you. I would just like to extend my gratitude to the Delmar campus for hosting today's meeting. Rory, thank you, thank Pamela and Shane for getting everything set up for us today. And then I'd also like to just recognize the two authors of Resolution 806, our Assistant Director of the NEC and the LGBTQ Pride and Dreamer Center, Irene Gonzalez Herrera, and Katie Ferrier, our trio, Eureka and Upward Bound manager, both of whom are also serving as our LGBTQ liaisons in the Chancellor's office for students. So they did a wonderful job authoring the resolution. And I'm pleased to say that the flags have already been disseminated to campuses. Eureka's may already be flying. So on approval of the resolution. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present that to the board and to really exemplify what it is for us to be an inclusive community. Are there any questions that I will address at this time?
Thank you. Moving on to 7.5, Interim Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Ms. Carrie Mayer.
Thank you very much. I wanted to add to my written report that I was able to attend on Friday a roundtable discussion on California ports that was hosted by the California Association of Port Authorities and the California Select Committee on Ports and Goods Movement. Sounds very fancy, but basically it was a convening of folks with interest in port development and offshore wind. And it was kind of a big deal just because of who was there. So Congressman Huffman was there, State Assembly Member Mike Gibson, who is chair of the Select Committee on Ports and Goods Movement. There were a number of representatives from Governor Newsom's office, including his senior advisor for offshore wind, our own Jana Gagnon, and the tribal liaison for community and place-based solutions from the Office of Business and Economic Development. There were also representatives from the Lieutenant Governor's office. The president of the State Building and Construction Trades Council of California was there. The executive director of the California Association of Port Authorities was there. Officials from the Port of Long Beach were there. Representatives from Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg's office were there. Local tribal leaders were there. And then our offshore wind industry partners were there, including reps from RWE and Vineyard Wind. As you are probably aware, several local tribal entities have come out formally in opposition to the offshore wind project. So there was a lot of conversation about that. Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, had been in the county on Thursday to meet with local tribal leaders to hear their concerns. That was a closed meeting, but I did get a little bit of intel from someone who was there that I spoke with on Friday, and their assessment is that there will be a lot more conversation with tribal leaders, but this is a project that appears to be moving forward. So the conversation in the room on Friday was more about how do we do that working together? There's so much money on the table and there's so much work to be done that it's really clear that we all need to be working in tandem on all of the aspects of this project, including from our perspective, workforce development and preparing our community to be ready to step into those jobs that will be associated both with port development and with offshore wind. I did have a chance to speak to the group and spoke a bit with Congressman Huffman about what that might entail for us to develop new academic programs or strengthen our existing academic programs to meet the workforce needs. And that was a good opportunity. So that was fantastic. I was very happy to be invited and happy to represent the college at that event. And I'm happy to take any questions about my written report as well, which is also exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Any questions? Trustee Dorn?
Hi, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask you for an update on the wind project. Have they figured out how to tie into the grid yet?
That was one of the topics of conversation, and it's obviously a big piece of the puzzle that has to be solved. So smarter people than I are working on that.
Okay, so they don't know yet. Okay, I was just curious.
Trustee Kelly?
I wonder what, College of Redwoods has such a great relationship with the tribes and we've been continually working on that. I wonder if there's a way for us to lead in terms of engaging the tribes in the workforce education pieces we've already started implementing. Maybe we already are, but to make sure though that those folks they have a seat at the table of the building of those things, and maybe that we do a better job of reporting out how the tribes are participating in that, and you know, as it makes sense. I recently wrote an opinion piece actually about Indigenous leadership and how important I think it is for our community. And I have seen in the past some of our extraction economies and how they have treated the tribes and other populations in our area. And I really am impressed with the way that CR has been going in these directions. And I kind of like our partnership with Cal Poly and HSU and the partnerships we've been building there. I think it's really worth telling the world about, because I think that these are models that our other institutions and our larger institutions in Humboldt should be adopting. So I don't know, I'm sure you've already got plans, but I just wanted to bring it up as a thing that I think it'd be awesome if we would highlight it more, the work that we're doing there.
I appreciate that. The grant that we just received in partnership with OSU is, I think, a really good model of how to work collaboratively with tribal nations on workforce development, economic development projects. I'm very excited about that. And I know President Flamer has been, you know, steadfast in his commitment to work with the tribes on workforce training and making sure that our tribal partners are not left behind. You know, when the jobs come, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 7.6, Executive Director of College Advancement in the Foundation, Mr. Marty Quello.
He's not on Zoom.
Okay. Future agenda items, reports, requests for information. Agenda item 8.1. You have anything? Okay, we will now move into closed session. Consideration of recommendation for student expulsion for Ed Code section 72122. Do we have any public comment?
No, there are none.
Okay. So we will, do I gavel it? Gavel it. Move into closed session and reconvene after